Hey folks, welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at question 567, permutation and string. Um, so basically what the question is asking us to do is that we need to look at string 1 and check if there's a permutation of string 1 and string 2. So there are a couple of ways that we can do it. We could possibly make it really complex. For example, like find every single permutation of S1 and check if there's a substring of that permutation in S2. But to keep things simple, what we'll do is that we'll actually keep uh, uh, an array that keeps a track of all of the characters. So how many occurrences there are in S1 and how many occurrences there are in S2. So how we'll do it is that we'll create an array of size 26 and we'll keep increment the number of characters there are in the array. And as soon as we get to S2, we keep decrementing it as soon as we see a particular character. So and we have a sliding window. So we have AB, and then we look at the first two characters, and then because one of them is incrementing, so S1 keeps incrementing and S2 keeps decrementing. Since at some point, if they are the same, your entire array will be equal to 0, then we know that we found a permutation and you return true. Right, so that is a lot simpler than actually finding all the permutation and actually like trying to like do something complex with reconstructing new strings. Having that said, let's jump into the solution. The first thing that we need to have is like the length of S1 and S2, and let's cover the base cases, right? So if L1 is greater than L2, we know that we cannot find a permutation that will fit within L2, so you just return false. Awesome. So what you need to do after that is you need to have like a for loop that goes through every single character in S1. But before that, let's create an array of, let's say, count, and let's say new int of size 26. And then you have int I equals 0, I less than 26, I plus plus. And then what you need to do is count dot S1 dot character at I minus a. So basically, what we're trying to do here is to get the ASCII value and subtract a, so it resets back to 0, and then you would just increment it. So you would do that for all, and once you're done with S1 string, what you need to do is you need to do we actually need to go through S2. So you would have for all of the characters in S2, you would say go through the entire array and like decrement it, right? So the particular character that you're looking at, you're decrementing that count, and then if I I minus L1 is greater than or equal to 0, which means that means the window that we're looking at is greater than L1 of size L1. What we need to do is actually we need to increment that we've seen on the other side. So it will look like something like this. So this will be S1 dot character at I minus L1 minus A plus plus. So what exactly is this doing? It's saying that, hey, we have already passed the window, and anything that's before the window just incremented by 1. So since we're doing it for every single character, we're making sure that the counts that are in the count array always have is always of size L1, starting with I to the left and nothing else. Awesome. So once you have that, what you need to do is you need to check whether everything in your array is 0. So let's call that all zeros, and let's pass in the array. And we know that we want to return like a boolean. So let's say if la-di-da, you would return true. Else, after the for loop, you would just return false. And what does this look like? So let's say public boolean all zeros, and then you would call it int of count. And then you have int I equals 0, so you're just initializing all the way to 0. So while I is less than 26. If count of I is not equal to 0, you know that at some point, like, there's a number of character mismatch between the window that we're looking at in S2 and S1. So you would just return false. If you've reached the end of the while loop, and you still haven't returned anything, that means all of them are 0 in fact, and you would return true. Awesome. So let's actually walk through this, right? So what we're doing is we're trying to increment all of the characters that we have in S1. So we are keeping account of that in the count array, and then we look at S2 and we're decrementing it. But the number of we decrement it only within like the window size, and the way we're taking care of it is that anytime the I that we're looking at is greater than the window size, we make sure that we are cleaning it up from the left side. Oh, this is actually S2. Yeah. And then you check if everything is 0. If it is, you return true. If you haven't returned anything by the end of the loop, return false. Awesome. So let's compile this and see if it's okay. Factor at I minus a. Where could I have gone? Is that character at I plus? Why is this a problem? Out of bounds range 2. This should have worked. Oh, this is not 62, 26, sorry, this is L1. So let's compile this again. Okay, yeah, so the first test case is okay. Everything else is okay as well. Awesome. So that's how you solve a problem. Let's talk about the space and the time complexity. The time complexity of the entire solution is O of n, since you are going through all of the characters in the array, and you might be asking, hey, like, you also have an additional computation on that, but this goes through in constant time, so it would still be of O of n, and space complexity is O of 1, since we are using additional data, like additional space, but it's of constant size. So therefore, your space complexity would be O of 1. Awesome. If you have